Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today it's time for another tour of what's blooming in my Waterwise landscape. Now this is the 1st of September, so what I'm going to show you is actually the beginning of September, but nothing has changed since what was blooming in August. So before we go and show you what's blooming right now, let's show you what bloomed earlier in August and what you missed. So now let's show you what's blooming today in my garden. I absolutely love fall in Utah. It's beautiful. It's almost like another spring. We just have different plants growing and blooming. It's gone from kind of drab in the heat of the summer to just exploding with growth and beautiful colors. So let me show you what's blooming right now. So the first thing that I'm really excited about is my hardy hibiscus. It's not a true hibiscus. This is a mallow, but they bloom like hibiscus. The flowers last one day, then they die back, but you've got a ton of other buds waiting to go. So this has been blooming for about a week to a week and a half now, and it's still got a little ways to go. Look at all the buds on this. And the flowers are absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes they call them dinner plate hibiscus. I've seen flowers larger than this one, but you could kind of see the comparison on the size with my hand. Gorgeous plants. We've also had some hardy glads that are blooming. These are really beautiful. They've had a really rough year because of the grasshoppers. Grasshoppers tend to love to eat them, but they're still blooming, and I love them. We've got an early mum. This is my darkest mum. It's blooming. A little bit earlier than everything else, but it's still beautiful. Another thing that is still blooming that I absolutely love is my Pugster Blue butterfly bush. The flowers are gorgeous. You can see a little spider in there building its web. I don't mind spiders. They reduce the pest pressure here. Now we do have the dead flowers. I could probably go in and deadhead it and make it look a little cleaner, but I am not about deadheading anything. I really don't like to do that. So whatever I can leave, I just leave. These will continue blooming without deadheading. They just do tend to look a little messier. Now this is an interesting one. This is like, I can't remember, it's a sedum. I think it's called peach flambe, but this is the color that it blooms. The bees absolutely love it. So we've got pink sedums, and then we've got this peachy color sedum. Absolutely gorgeous. We still have the seeds on my Hypericum or St. John's wort. This is a different kind of St. John's wort. I will put the name on the screen for you. And then we've just got the textures and colors in here that I love so much. You can have garden color without flowers and just move into texture and leaf color. But flowers are also wonderful. This is my chase tree, the one that I thought died to the ground. Still blooming, started blooming in June. This one is Shoals Creek chase tree. Still blooming. Absolutely beautiful. Now the form is not what I want it because it died to the ground and is coming back, all over the place. So I'll start to prune it again next spring. Hopefully all of these branches live over the winter, and then we can start pruning it into a more attractive shape again. We've still got a few of the moonshine yarrow blooming. This just blooms forever. I'll come back in here and deadhead it again. I've been deadheading it regularly because these do reseed themselves. But I think they're a beautiful plant. We've got the pugster, the amethyst pugster butterfly bush right here. This one also could probably do with some deadheading, but I just don't like to take the time to do that. It's just going to continue to bloom until frost cuts it back. This is a brand new one. This is a salvia that I purchased a few weeks ago and planted, and I will put the name on the screen, but isn't that gorgeous? I have another one on the other side of the yard that's really beautiful. And above that is, I don't know what's going on with this hydrangea. This is a strawberry vanilla hydrangea. The flowers just are really, really tiny this year, which is a shame because it's the first year they didn't brown out. And I don't know if you can see in the video, but it's starting to get that first blush of a color change. Ever since I planted this 4 years ago, it has never changed color. It's always just burned up in the sun. This year, we're starting to get the color change. Now this is the Little Lime Punch, and you can see the color starting to change on here. They did not burn up and turn brown. We're going to get that beautiful color on them for the fall. I'm really excited about that. Hopefully it just continues to darken. So I love the side yard. There's a lot of texture and color going on here. And there's always something blooming throughout the entire year. Another thing that's blooming again is my catmint. We had cut this back earlier this summer. It had a glorious bloom in the spring, cut it back for the summer, and now it's blooming again. I don't even remember the variety of this catmint because I planted it. I divided it off a plant that I planted years and years ago. So it's probably the regular Walker's Low, but I'm not 100% positive, but I think it's Walker's Low. This is my annual area. It's right next to the hose, so I do water this more often. We've got kale, we've got snapdragons. I pulled out all of the calendulas because they were kind of a mess. But we've got nasturtiums, and then one last little calendula trying to bloom. I think I'm going to rework this area next year and try something else. It's just a little bit messy for my taste this year. Now another one of my favorites that's been blooming is my plumbago. Now this is in really harsh conditions. It very rarely gets watered under this tree. I do a deep, deep soak every 2 weeks. It's in the shade part of the time, sun part of the time, and it's competing with the roots. But it is still growing and spreading. So I think this plant is a winner, and it's going to be interesting to see how it does throughout the years in this area. Another thing that I'm waiting for that I'm excited about is in the fall, it turns a brilliant red. So this is the rest of my front yard. We've got a lot of things that are flowering that have newly been flowering and other things that have flowered for almost the entire year. One thing that has flowered for the entire year, ever since May, has been my Sundancer daisies. I love this plant. They've reseeded themselves because I don't cut them back until spring. So they've just been reseeding themselves happily all over the place and just keep blooming. Another one of my annuals that I do hand water. I hand water this once a week, and this is my Sweet Alyssum. The white ones over here reseeded from last year. So we just kind of tuck the Sweet Alyssum around everywhere we can. As I said, we do have to remember to hand water it. And then in certain areas, we just allow it to reseed itself if it wants. Now this is where that second salvia is. Like I said, I'll put the name on the screen. Oh, but we've got to rid it of the bindweed. There we go. Now you can see it without the bindweed. It's really quite a pretty little plant. Another one that's been blooming all year long that I absolutely love is this little pine leaf penstemon. It just has never stopped blooming. It's been blooming since May. It's also the time of year for black-eyed Susans. Now this is a new patch. My other patch is on the other side of the yard that didn't really bloom this year because it's under the shade of my weeping blue spruce and it's just gotten too dense there. They need full sun, but they are absolutely glorious. So I'll just let this one reseed around here and probably divide it and move it around a little bit too, because I love the black-eyed Susans at the end of the year. Purple coneflower are coming to the end of their season. We still got a few new blooms in here. And we've got the older ones. Now this is one, a lot of people say to leave it up and leave the seed heads for the bird, and that's for the birds. And that's a great thing to do. The only issue with it is this plant reseeds itself heavily in my yard. And it just, a lot of people wouldn't mind that, but I want a more manicured look. And so I do cut the seed heads off because I would rather not create more work for myself. I have enough work as it is to do. I don't want to create more work by allowing these to go to seed and causing myself issues. Now I do leave one or two up for the birds, but most of these will be deadheaded. Here's another little beautiful sedum. I'm not sure of the variety, but I love the color. We've got that same sedum over here up next to my catmint, which is really gorgeous. I love that look of the colors here with the catmint, the sedum, and the variegated iris, along with the other plants. The foliage color back here is my sad little devil ninebark. Now this was a transplant last year. It had been in the ground for 15 years in another area of the yard. I dug it up and transplanted it. And this is its second season from being transplanted. So next year we'll see if it does any better. If it doesn't do any better, we'll replace it with another one because I absolutely love the texture and color of these. Another thing that I love is the grasses. Now this is a Rosselbrush panicum. It's not doing very well here, so I am going to dig this one up and replace it with the Shenandoah panicum or switchgrass, which is the same variety of grass. It's just supposed to do a little bit better and have a better color. So we'll see how well that does, and I'm going to replace this a little bit later this year. This is another sedum. This has dark pink flowers. It's not quite open. The blooms aren't quite open yet. It's starting to get a little lanky, but they're quite pretty. Let me show you one that's not lanky. This one has stayed dense and is really gorgeous, and I love the color with the Sundancer daisies right here and the Sweet Alyssum. I've got some more Autumn Joy sedum that are getting ready to bloom right next to my And these are right next to my drops of Jupiter oregano. Now this oregano has been blooming for a long time and the pollinators absolutely love it. And I really like the color and texture up next to the blue oak grass. And then contrast that with my Zauschneria or hummingbird trumpet. Now here is an issue that you need to think about with hummingbird trumpet if you have neighborhood cats. See that blank spot in the center? That is the ambush area for our neighborhood cat Alien. Now I love Alien. He's a sweet little kitty, absolutely loves belly rubs, loves people, but he hides right here, and I'll show you a picture of what he looks like hiding. Gets himself really low so the hummingbirds can't see him. They come up on that side and then he jumps into the plant and ambushes them. It's a really sad thing. So anyway, they are absolutely gorgeous, but you've got to watch for the neighborhood cats. Now another gorgeous plant is this is this hummingbird mint. I think this is something Sonoran. I'll put the name up on the screen. But look at the orange color of these flowers. These are up high enough that the cat doesn't try to ambush the hummingbirds, and the hummingbirds love it. The hummingbirds, as they fly in, they can see if the cat is hiding. So maybe this is a better option than the lower growing Zauschenaria down over there. Now this isn't part of my front yard, but I wanted to show you these. These are my hydrangeas, and they can be part of a water-wise landscape because this area right here, the irrigation is tied to my garden beds over there. So the irrigation goes to those garden beds at the very end of this pathway, runs along here, waters these, has a blank line that also ends up with more drip line for this area out here in the front. So all of these areas are watered at the same time on the same zone, and they get watered 3 times a week, 2 times in the fall. So you can have more water-hungry plants in a water-wise landscape, just hydrozone them in the same area with each other so they all get watered together. Put down a heavy mulch and then you won't have to water as often. So these are my Macrophylla hydrangeas, and this year they're not burning up either. We're getting the color change, the late fall color change, and these will turn a beautiful burgundy, which, if we do get the leaf color change in the end of the year, if we don't get warm weather that delays the color change, or an early frost or freeze that kills the leaves before they change, then we'll get the gorgeous leaf color change, which is the deep reds, and then that burgundy color, and it's going to be gorgeous together. This is what adding acid to your soil does to hydrangeas here. It won't turn them blue, but it will turn them a little bit purple in certain areas. So we've got the pink ones, we've got the purple one, and then we've got the burgundy ones that's changing. Then we've got new little buds. This is what I love about this one. This is the Endless Summer Macrophylla hydrangea. The last one I wanted to show you is another water-wise perennial that's blooming. This is out in my garden area, my backyard, but it is water-wise. This is the Anise hyssop. Bees absolutely love it. It reseeds itself readily. All of this reseeded itself from one plant last year that just popped up. It just popped up. I don't know where it came from. Actually, I had planted Anise hyssop about 15 years ago, and I'm wondering if there was a delayed dormant seed that sprouted. But they've popped up all over the place now because this area is getting a little more irrigation. Not a ton. This area gets watered once every week or two. And the leaves smell like anise and like licorice. And the bees absolutely love it. Even here late in the evening near 8:30, and we've still got little bees that are visiting. Now this is year number 2 for this landscape. Before it looked like this, there was grass all over the place, and I just switched out the grass last year. So this is year number 2, and these plants only get watered every 2 weeks. I've tried to stretch them out a little bit further, but they still aren't quite established enough to go very much longer. There are a few plants in here that I hand water more frequently. I have to hand water the strawberries that are in here 3 times a week for them to look good. Twice a week and they start struggling, once a week and they just die. Now I love landscaping with strawberries, and I let the neighborhood kids eat the strawberries out of my front yard, but I don't like the idea of going around and having to water them more often. Matter of fact, some of the more drought tolerant plants around them are dying because of the extra water. So I think what I'm going to do in a week or so is I am going to take those strawberries and I'm going to move them to a single area in my front yard and just allow them to be there, so I can just hand water one area. Now I'm hoping next year some of these plants are established enough that they can be watered once every 3 weeks. My goal is to be watering them every 3 weeks or once a month. But as you can see, even when you have plants that don't need that much water, you can still have a ton of color and beauty. So I would love to hear what water-wise plants you're growing, if there's anything that's flowering right now that you absolutely love. And if there is, please comment down below and tell us what they are. I love learning from other people and hearing about what you're growing. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.